Howdy folks, welcome to the bar and Extractaganza time. I know this is different. I'm sitting with a beer in the bar. Normally that comes halfway through the video, I get that, but this side I'm going to throw a little bit of a change into Extractaganza. I'm changing up the videos, so I'm going to start from now. The videos will start with the beer. And we'll talk about, as we're tasting it, we'll talk about the beer and we'll have a look at what went into it and throwing it all together. This is Extractaganza number 42. Which means we've about, a bit under a quarter of the way through all the kits that are available. And possibly a bit under that, because I think there's been a few more come on the market since I started doing this. Some have fallen off, but then more stuff's come on. Anyway. We're getting there. Stick around. We'll get there sooner or later. Anyway, Extractaganza number 42. This is Brick Road's Brewing Co. This is it's a red IPA. Now, this isn't a kit as such. It's not a pre-hopped kit. This is actually a full extract brew using a mix of hopped and unhopped extracts, but not actually a beer kit. And that sounds a bit confusing, but what's been used in this is their hopped amber malt and their hopped dry malt. I've discussed these in previous videos, but these are a product that are just generically hopped to get bitterness. There's no specific hop flavour or presence that comes along with it. It's simply a hopped extract that you can use to make brews. I'm going to play around with these a little bit further down the track, but this is one of their recipes off the Brick Road site, their red IPA, and it's made using a combination of these hopped extracts and some unhopped. So what we have in the brew is 1 can of the Brick Road hopped amber liquid malt, like 1.5 kilo tin. I've got some pictures up of each one of these so you know what we're looking at. 1 tin of the amber liquid, which is not hopped, and a 1 kilo bag of their hopped light dry malt. So there's 4 kilos of malt between the liquid and the dry into this brew at 23 litres. And I said, this recipe is on their website. This is how they say to make their red IPA with their extract. And she's mixed up. I've got 280 grams of dextrose written here. Now, I've got a funny feeling that there's no dextrose in the actual recipe. The recipe is the 2 tins and the dry malt. I think I've added the dextrose may have been just an attempt to get the body down a little bit. I've mixed this to 23 litres. I've got a funny feeling maybe the recipe was meant to be to 22, and I was just stretched it a little bit and thrown some dex in, which at 280 grams must have just been the end of a packet I had here, just to boost the alcohol a bit and to sort of tone down the heaviness of the gravity. I think I was a bit concerned about how heavy the oil malt was going to get, and again, if we had the footage from brew day, we'd probably see that. But yeah, dickhead here put those 2 videos in the wrong place on the computer, and they got tossed out when I was clearing bloody disk space. There's a lesson in making sure your fucking computer's got plenty of fucking hard drive space, I'll tell you. But so that happens when you use an old technology. But anyway, we put 16 litres into the fermenter, pitched 1 packet of Mingrove Jack's M42 New World Strong Ale at an original gravity of 1064, 18 degrees in the fermenter. I've got here day 1, it went up to 19 degrees. I Don't know exactly why it's gone from 18 to 19 in one day. I think I want to just push that. I wanted to get that M42 really going along. It doesn't tend to like being in the lower end of its range. It does, it does like to be more in the midpoint and higher. So anyway, that's where we went. Day 5 was at 1020, sitting on about 10 psi. 4 days later, I dropped it to 2 degrees. No measurement there on the gravity, don't know what it was. Day 16, so 5 days after that, it was sitting at 10:15, and that was. And 2 days later, it was bottled. So we're assuming still at the 10:15, which gives us an ABV of 6.4%. Bit of detail there. Anyway, that's her. And she's going to probably showing up there quite. So it is reasonably deep, but it is quite red. Yeah, when you get some light behind it, it is red. So the colour's certainly doing what it needs to do. So as I said, there's no hops added to this at all. By memory, those 2 hop additions got us. I'll have to bloody check. I'll put here what the actual IBU is. I'll work it out. But I think it's about 48 IBU. So there's been no hops up front, no dry hop at all added. I certainly could have dry hopped this, but I did want to just see how this extract, this unhopped extract, really worked on its own. So especially considering it's the first time I've ever used them. So I really wanted to be able to just sit on their own and see how they go. And this is how the recipe sits. It doesn't mention any dry hopping in the actual recipe on the Brick Road website. So it pours a lovely colour. It's come up nicely carved in the bottle. Half a scoop of Dex in each bottle. It's poured a nice head. It's sort of hanging about. And exactly as you'd expect. There's no hop nose. It's malt, all malt. That IBU contribution in that hop malt is not a aromatic in any way. So anyway, let's have a go at it. Oh, wow. Okay, let's There's a few things in that first take I want to talk about straight up. First up, the initial taste. There's a heavy malt, obviously a heavy malt presence. Yeah, 6.4%, 1064 OG. There's big malt there. The bitterness is very restrained. It's there, but again, it's got a lot of malt to come against. So it's just sitting there doing that on its own. It's just sort of keeping that sweetness in check. There's no real evidence of the bitterness itself. Clearly, it's there, but it's not standing out. This would be a massively sweet beer if it wasn't doing its job. So it's holding there nicely. It certainly could do with some follow up with some dry hopping to bring a little bit more to it. But yeah, it's not having a majorly negative impact on the actual beer itself. It could be a tad. Like it feels like it's quite lightly carbonated, but it does have a decent carbonation in the glass. So again, I think that's just that heavy malt and that bit of sweetness is sort of playing that part. So it's not feeling quite as light-bodied. There's no significant twang. There is a little bit. It's small, and it was quite noticeable initially in the back of that first mouthful. It was very, well, I picked it straight away. I was certainly my first impression in that first impression as I went through. But it's not screaming at you, and it's not going and that's not all you get. It's tied up in the big malt, and again, because there's no hops there coming through on the back palate, there's nothing to counteract that little bit of, you know, tin sort of note you're going to get. It's not, and it's again, it's not massive, and this is something I'm getting fairly consistently with the Brick Road. A little bit of twang, not much. Certainly enough to say, like it's sort of, you can pick it in sort of all their beers, but it's a lot better than a lot of other brands that are getting around. That's for sure. For me, it's probably sitting second on the board on the list of kits, brands, manufacturers, as far as, you know, the level of non-twang goes. So, you know, if you're supplying, if you're sticking with the Brick Road, or Black Rock, which is the, that yard mark for me, the yardstick, then you're not really battling with too much of the twang. And as I said, it's presenting a little more in this particular beer because it is very malty, so it's sort of riding along with that, and there's not a lot of hops, coming through. The kit itself is actually pretty good. Like, I'm pretty happy with the way the hopping in that worked. It certainly gives a lot of promise for working with other brews. Like I said, this has come out at 6.4%. You could quite easily, stretch this to 24, 25 litres, and not change the actual fermentables, and bring it down to 5.6 to 5.9, even 6%, like that sort of mid-ish, the high end of the 5s, and pull it back a little bit, which would help sort of tone down that heaviness, get rid of that sweetness a little bit. Or I think you can stretch it to 24, 25 litres and add another, 200 to 300 grams of dextrose. Keep your ABV up, but again, stretch that malt out a little bit, make it a little bit lighter, bring a little bit lighter finish into the body. But overall, if you look at a red IPA, and the reality is for me, and I think a lot of people would agree with this, red IPA is one of the most difficult styles to brew if you're brewing kits. It's not an easy style to get a lock on, but that certainly gives you a base to work from. Like, in all honesty, I've had quite a few commercial red IPAs that aren't going to stand up to that flavour and taste-wise. So flavour and taste, it's not the same thing, but anyway. So yeah, it's a good point. It would certainly be something I think worth you could play around with. I think for me it needs a little bit more bitterness up front, and there'd be several ways of achieving that. The route really is you could simply, add a little extra dry malt, the hop dry malt, and bring in another, look, 100 grams. So every 100 grams of that hot dry malt is 2.3 IBU. So another 200 grams of that light dry malt, and you're going to get, another 4.5 IBU, which is not insignificant. That's about a 10% boost in this brew. Going to give you a little bit more ABV, but not a hell of a lot. Now, bearing in mind that's keeping it at 23 litres. It's going to be a little bit difficult to bring extra bitterness in any other method without really going with a boil. I don't know whether we want to be going that way with this particular brew. Dry hop, yeah, dry hop. You could do a whirlpool, get your amber liquid. Get 200 grams of the amber liquid in 2 litres of hot water. Get updated, 90 degrees, and drop some hops in it for 10 minutes. Strain into the brew to get you a bit extra flavour, and then dry hop. I think dry hop would really benefit the brew. Doesn't need a lot. Again, it's a red eye. For me, a red IPA should be more malty than hoppy. Okay, it's an IPA. It's got to be hot. It's got to have some amount of hopping to slip into IPA territory. Otherwise, realistically, you're just doing a red ale. From that perspective, it's not quite getting there, but it's giving you the base to work from. Get some back end in there, and realistically, do whatever you want to do with it. It's nondescript as it is. It's just simply, a red malty brew. Any hopping you want. American, New Zealand, Australian, whatever tickles your fancy. Combination of all of the above. Go English. It will all work. Just whatever. I said what's going to work for you the best. But that brew gets a thumbs up from me. Gets a 4 out of 5. No problem at all. Like, I'm drinking that quite happily. Like, as it stands, it's not an exceptional beer, but it's certainly drinkable. I don't know if you want to be having. I don't know if you're going to want to be having a session on these. Then again, 6.4%. Who's having a session on it anyway? But it's not a beer you're going to sit there and have too many of. It's a little bit too sweet. But for me, this sort of beer is it's a one beer in a session. It's a progression beer as you're working through a session and you're coming through. I mean, I don't know how everybody does it, but I tend, if I'm having a session, I tend to work through from easy to, the beers get a little bit more challenging as you go, which generally tends to mean getting, darker and or stronger as the session progresses. If you're having a big all day sesh, then you're not drinking this sort of thing anyway. So it's not going to really be a concern. You certainly shouldn't be seshing on 6.4% beers. Not too often anyway. Anyway, that's a Brick Road, all extract, pre-hopped, red IPA. Yep, she's a goer. I certainly, I can recommend having a crack at it. If you got any comments or any questions, stick them down the bottom. Patreon to the channel, thumbs up to you guys. Thank you as always for your support. The link down the bottom, Patreon, if you're interested, jump on, have a go. Keep supporting the channel. Lets me do all the playing around I do. Lets me do these beers because, you know, I generally don't drink a lot of these bloody extracts. They end up going to other people. So, if you subscribe to the channel, thank you very much. If you're not subscribed, you should be. There's a link down the bottom there. Hit the subscribe button, ring the little bell, and you won't miss any videos when they come out. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up. But for now, that's me, Little John. Extractaganza 42, Brick Road, pre-hopped extract, red IPA. It's a winner. So I'll see you on the next video when we're brewing beer, drinking beer, talking beer. Good brewing.